What is up, everyone? Welcome to the L2R2 PlayStation Podcast. My name is Fonzie, joined by my co-host, as always, from across the pond, my bruh from another mum, Callum Monroe. Callum, how the heck have you been?
Yeah, good, thank you. Yeah, across the frozen pond
Yeah,
at the moment.
we could
It's
walk it now. We could ice skate it.
yeah, we could actually, yeah. I actually should probably say I don't normally wear like beanies or anything, but I got this for Christmas and it's quite short, but you can still kind of stretch it down. But you just kind of like sits on top of my head and it keeps my head nice and cool because obviously I don't have very much hair. Um, so yeah, it's a bit of a revelation. So it's not a fashion thing. I'm not a fashionable person, is what I'm trying to say. It's purely practical reasons.
It's pretty cool. I'd say you got the drip going, as the kids say, or the Riz. I've
Yeah,
heard them say.
yeah, yeah, definitely.
Yeah, how you been? How's your week been?
Yeah, it's been good. Yeah, had a nice relaxed weekend. Playing lots of games. Busy week at work. Second week back at work, I think. So um, been intense, but it's been good to kind of, well, I say good. It's just trying to get back into the routine of having to go to work 'cause it's very difficult after Christmas. But yeah, been good. Yeah, I've been playing lots and lots of games actually to the point where I feel like I might be pushing myself into one of those like lulls because I'm kind of getting a bit overwhelmed with wanting to play everything all at once. So I need to calm down a little bit and just pick my shots a little more.
Yeah, this is often same for me where I kind of start catching up on stuff, like always during that holiday. And then there's always sales on stuff, right and
Mm,
then. So like I'll pick up a bunch of stuff and then not play them. But
yeah.
I did jump into a little bit of. I've been super excited for this game. I haven't bought it yet. Just played the demo. Luckily, there was a demo, but it's Prince of Persia, the
Mm,
Lost Kingdom or something. But it's a
yeah.
2D side scrolling. Have you seen any footage from that?
Yeah, I had no interest in it at all when it was first kind of revealed. I haven't really been into Prince of Persia since the PS2 games. Um, but yeah, since it's come out, it's reviewed really well and it actually does look quite fun. But it's one of those where because it wasn't really on my radar, and now it's come out and it is supposed to be good, I've still got so many other bloody things that I can't afford to budge off of my list of games I need to play, which is increasing daily as well. But that already they slip through the cracks, so I have to try and again tamper myself a little bit.
I'd say if you do end up like not wanting to play all the stuff that you do have, it's there. That demo is up there. It's free and
Mm,
it's a good chunk of what that experience is. And it's just this cool side-scrolling
yeah.
platforming. There's these really enjoyable fighting mechanics in it. It makes me really want this world done or this kind of style done with a God of War, where you're
Yeah.
because that original God of War still it almost felt like when I think about it, it almost felt just side scrolling because there's times where it does force you in that format.
Mm.
Then it opens up and stuff. But I would love to see them do that kind of vibe with God of War.
Yeah, I think that could be really cool. I think it's nice to kind of get a good game like that because the only games, in big series like that I can really think of is like the Assassin's Creed side scrollers, which I don't think were very well received. I never played them, but
Yeah.
so it was always a cool idea to kind of have that kind of. And I think Prince of Persia maybe is relatable to Assassin's Creed in some ways. So I think yeah, it's nice to see a game like that come out and do that, especially because it's always nice to see it when it's a surprise as well. I don't think anyone expected it to be as good as it was. So it's a nice kind of feel good story as well.
Right. Yeah. And I mean, Prince of Persia, it's like the last one I played. I can't even remember. One would say it was like the PS3 360 era. There
Mm,
was their last attempt at something. There was a remake of the original. If you remember years ago, it's like 2020. They were working on a remake, and it was some other kind of obscure studio handling it,
yeah.
and it did not look good, and it was kind of put on hold. And I haven't seen anything from that. But if you ever Google it, look at footage. It looks rough, but they
Mm,
put it on hold. That was like 3 years ago. We haven't heard anything from that.
yeah. It joins the list of games in that same situation, I think.
Yeah, nice. We've been playing stuff. You know what I did watch last night was the Weird Al Yankovic movie. Uh,
Mm,
I think it's weird Al Yankovic story. I
yeah.
don't know if you got to see it. It's just like it's over the top dramatization of his life. It's not real or takes place in reality at all, but
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
hilarious. Dude from Harry Potter plays Weird Al. It's awesome. You got to watch it.
Yeah, I remember that. Did that come out? recently, or has it been out for a little bit? Because I remember seeing something about it a while ago, but it's one of those that I just didn't even know was out
Yeah, it's been
yet.
about a year, but it had this weird release where if you know the Roku like streaming, thing you plug
Mm,
into your TV, they had a deal with them where it's like only on their platform for about a year, and now you can finally rent it online. But
right.
it's just ridiculous. And if you like Weird Al, I don't know if Weird Al reached out to you growing up, like if you have that
Yeah.
connection.
Yeah, I like back in the days of did you use LimeWire? Like
Yeah,
yes, I remember that. That was kind of Weird Al Yankovic was one of the artists on rotation around those kind of that kind of era for me, for sure. As well as sort of it was all the that kind of age as well. You always like the rude stuff, don't you? You always want something that's a bit rude. So I remember all the South Park songs as well, or something that I'd download from LimeWire. But yeah, no, yeah, I like a biopic, even if it is a bit more silly and not as grounded in reality, like you said. So, um, yeah, it's probably not a bad one to check out, actually.
yeah, it's definitely not in reality at all, but it's hilarious. And when I was growing up, I'm old enough to remember when his stuff was actually on MTV. Like I
Mm,
remember his parody of Beat It, Eat It was
yeah.
on MTV as a kid, and so I grew up just being like, "What is this? It's so weird." And
Yeah.
yeah, it's like edgy for kids because it's just like taking the piss out of something that's popular, but still done really well. But he's still
Yeah.
stayed consistent and like relevant for it feels like 20 years, 30 years at least.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, he's one of those kind of non-aging people, isn't he? You just look at him and he just looks like he's like a vampire or something.
And I find myself liking stuff like that as I, move on with there's like the Lonely Island. I don't know if you've ever watched their stuff, but they're basically like the hip hop version
Yeah,
of
yeah,
Weird
yeah,
Al where they just do rap
yeah.
parodies and try to get my nephews into it, and they're always just like, "What the hell is this?" And then after a while they're
Yeah,
like, "Oh, this is actually hilarious."
yeah, yeah. I love the Lonely Island. Yeah,
They're great. They are great. And there's really I guess YouTube. It's a weird world now where it's like anyone can create their own parody. So maybe there's just like an oversaturation. There probably is that stuff out there, but I can't name on the top of my head like other people that are doing that. It's really like Lonely Island. Maybe there's
no,
obscure YouTubers that are still millions of views, but it's just I think of Weird Al,
yeah,
something
and I
like
think it's
that.
similar like Bo Burnham as well.
True.
Like he was obviously, and especially on YouTube, he was like one of the first there, wasn't he? Um, yeah, I love Bo Burnham as well. I think he's probably the only other one, like you said. I don't think necessarily they're the same. I think they're all very different, but yeah, that same kind of like era of YouTube comedy music. Because I remember Lonely Island like first getting big through things like YouTube, and it was back when people used to like Bluetooth songs to each other. I remember like
Yeah.
everyone would be Bluetooth and like jizz in my pants or whatever. Um, so yeah, it's definitely
A
like a
classic.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, I think it was just an era of like excitement around like look how easy it is to share these funny, stupid songs with each other. I mean, Bluetooth. I know it's the same for you as well, but like I remember at school, people just Bluetoothing stuff to each other, like on like your little sort of Sony Ericsson
Yeah.
Cybershot phones, or whatever, the
Yeah.
weird little clicky things. But yeah, that was good times. You'd see some weird stuff though, some pretty
That's the
bad
thing.
stuff too.
Yeah, especially if you're in like high school, middle school, people are just trying to shock each other. And
Yeah,
yeah,
I
there's
mean
like the quick
now kids just go on Twitter and see the worst stuff you can see. So
yeah. I constantly it's funny as an adult where I hear my nephews talk to each other and I'll, play online with them and the stuff they say is just so wild and I'm just like, "Hey guys, remember that you guys are now growing up where this stuff is going to follow you." So it's like keep that in mind, but
yeah,
they just like let it fly and I'm trying to maybe they just got to learn that lesson, but it's like, dude, you think they
yeah.
would be the ones more fully aware of that, but they seem to just like have no filter.
Yeah, it is quite scary. I always hope it's like because when you see kids nowadays, they do mostly seem like normal kids, I'd say. Um, but you do worry about some of them. But I guess that's always
Yeah.
been the case, isn't it? I think kids are
Right.
just weird.
Yeah.
Everyone
Undoubtedly they're
hits,
weird.
no matter who you are, you always hit that point when like life hits you, and then you're like, oh God. So, well, I say that actually, you don't really see people in their bloody like 50s and 60s acting like crazy people. So, I guess it is just humans weird.
Yeah, that doesn't really go away. You just stay weird
You know?
and then
Yeah.
eventually you die.
Yes.
Ready, Cal? We'll jump into some of the PlayStation news this week. Kind of light, but we got some stuff that did happen that dropped. We got the first one. It's pretty cool. We're gearing up for Last of Us 2 to be filmed this year. And so we got some character reveals. So we have HBO's The Last of Us Season 2 cast. Characters revealed so far. So Isabella Merced as Dina. She was in Dora the Lost City of Gold, which was a live-action Dora the Explorer, and then the upcoming Madame Web. We'll go one at a time, or I'll list them all off. We got Caitlin Dever as Abby. She's from the TV show Justified. She was in that movie No One Will Save You that came out recently. Young Mazzino as Jesse. He was in Netflix's Beef TV show. How do you feel about the casting? I don't know if you're familiar with these people, but just like visually, how do you think they fit the role?
Yeah, I think the young Mazzino one's great. I really liked Beef when that came out, and he's so funny in it. So I think, and I think just generally, like he kind of has that kind of young, naive sort of vibe to him, which I think will be good. Sort of when playing Jesse, and the other two, I don't really know them. I know that Caitlin. I just only found out today that she's the voice of is it Cassie Drake from Uncharted?
Oh, really?
Yeah, so there's some kind
Ooh.
of connection there in the kind of back end of the production, I guess, with Sony being involved. But yeah, I thought that was quite interesting. But yeah, I think that it's always difficult with casting, so the amount of times it can go either way. If someone looks perfect then isn't very good, or the other way around, where someone doesn't quite, you don't know how that person is going to do, and then they end up knocking it out of the park. So but yeah, it's cool to just get information because it means it's getting closer, I suppose.
Yeah, and I mean, if you go over the cast of the original season, I mean, everyone absolutely nailed it. So I'm sure they're having that same showrunner, the same people in charge of casting, and I would trust whoever they have in here. It's going to be
The only thing with with Pedro Pascal, I love him. He's one of my favorite actors at the moment. But I find sometimes his voice sounds a little bit like Elmo,
I could see that.
and I
Yeah, yeah.
don't. And it's one of those things where I think when you notice it, you can't unhear it.
Okay.
Because he's a really good actor, and obviously, and in Narcos, like he barely speaks English in that anyway, but he still has that kind of like Elmo sort of thing to it.
Yeah.
But I just wanted to say, yeah, something that I've always thought but never really said. And I just thought it had to go out there. I don't know if it's a thing. I haven't tried Googling it. Maybe if I Google it, there's more people. I doubt it. But yeah, there's a part in the Last of Us series where he's like climbing up a ladder, and I think it's kind of that light-hearted conversation, and he just sounds so much like Elmo, which yeah it's just something I've noticed with him, which is funny when you're playing someone like Joel, who's like a really gruff
Right.
guy. But I still love. I think he nailed it, but it was just funny.
Just has that Elmo vibe to him. Well, now I'm gonna
Yeah,
rewatch anything he's in and just try and listen for Elmo and hopefully not get it just stuck in my head.
yeah,
Maybe a live
yeah.
action Sesame Street. He could play Elmo.
Yeah,
Be cool.
exactly. Yeah, well, he's already done Mario, isn't he? In
Right.
the
That
Mario
was
Kart thing.
that
Yeah,
was brilliant. I love that.
yeah.
Nice, Cam. Well, yeah, we're getting closer to Last of Us 2. I did see is Caitlin Dever on Twitter, the original voice actress for Abby. Forget her name. She's like a prominent video game voice actress.
Laura Bailey.
Yeah, she reached out and she
Yeah.
was like, "Hey, if you need a workout buddy," so it's cool to see them like
Mhm.
connect online. But also like this, I'm sure they have meetings where it's like, "Hey, you're gonna get so much hate. Like I don't know
Mm.
how we focus this or block you from it, but people are
Yeah,
gonna
I
absolutely
think.
hate you."
Yeah, I mean, I think there will be that. Obviously, there is just all the time because people are freaks. But what I'm hoping is that because let's face it, the worst people are gamers, right? They're the ones that
Yeah.
say the worst things and are the worst to people. Um, so hopefully they've kind of all not got out their system, but done they've done this now, and then so it will be the new audience, which will probably be like the people I know my general vicinity who were introduced to Last of Us because of the series was, generally your family, people who aren't really playing games, who are maybe less inclined to carry that same kind of like venom in their criticisms. But I don't know. I mean, I hope it is as good as it can be. But yeah, it's just it just shows how divisive um the kind of narrative is that there's already this kind of concern about the well-being of the people playing these characters who, do such horrible things. So yeah, I'm not sure, but hopefully it will go as positive as it possibly can.
Yeah, I'm excited to see just people see this stuff happen for the first time, and I am more on your side where I think this is a different crowd where they're not going to just terrorize this lady in real life online.
Hopefully, yeah,
yeah, hopefully.
yeah.
But we're getting close to this thing being real, so that is exciting. All right, Cal, moving on, we got the upgraded PS5 controller with hugely improved battery life spotted. This is from PushSquare.com. An improved, upgraded version of the PS5's DualSense controller appears to have leaked on Best Buy Canada's website. The listing for the product, titled PS5 V2 DualSense wireless controller, promises the same features as the existing version, but also touts an exceptional 12-hour battery life. This is nuts if it's true. How do you feel about legit, normal controller battery, lifespan from PlayStation for the first time?
Yeah, I like the idea of that upgrading the controller. I hope there's more than just the battery life as well. I mean, I've currently got 3 DualSense controllers and I can't use any of them now. 2 of them have got like some kind of stick problem, and
Oh,
then the other one, which is working fine, like the L2's like come out of the shell somehow, and I don't know if the haptics is like kicked out or something, but something's gone on. I can't even pull the L2 trigger anymore, so I don't have a controller. I was playing the finals yesterday on my PS5, and I had to use my PlayStation Portal as the controller.
whoa. Did that
Which was
work?
the only thing like, yeah, it works fine. But yeah, I mean, it's not. It's still a little different because you're holding like this big thing, and the analogs are slightly taller as well. But yeah, it was fun. It's kind of weird, like being able to kind of see the same thing just below me. Um, but yeah, I hate the DualSense. I think it sucks. It just runs out of battery all the time. They break all the
Yeah.
time. They're too big for my tiny hands. They hurt my hands, and yeah, I just don't like them. All I want is DualShock 4 to be compatible with every PS5 game, because I know it can be. Because I used to play my PS5 remotely from my PS4 sometimes, and so you're using a DualShock 4 when you're doing that, and you're playing PS5 games with vibration. Everything works perfectly, but apparently locally you can only play PS4 games with a DualShock 4, and I just like, I don't. It's probably just me that wants that, so it's probably why they're not doing it. But if I could get a DualShock 4 with like a USB-C port, that would just cure everything. But no, everyone with their normal sized hands getting what they want.
Yeah. I'm sorry, Callum. But yeah, I mean, my gripes isn't really the ergonomics per se, but it is, the battery life. And even
Yeah.
going back to like DualShock 4, that also didn't have the best battery, but it was a bit more, would last longer than the DualSense, all the stuff it has to power, but also the LEDs in there. Can we get rid of those? I'm never looking down on my controller to see like my health status, because I know that will reflect, in the LED color that comes out, like go to
Yeah.
red if you get shot or if you're dying. It's like, I'm never looking down. Stop implementing that. It looks cool, but if it's draining the already weak battery, just why do we need that anymore?
I mean, one thing is as well though, like I do sometimes think that maybe it's my fault that the battery runs out all the time, because I don't plug it in that often. I
Okay,
feel
well, yeah.
really and I forget to. But one thing I did do, which did help a little bit, which made me think that maybe it is my fault, is I went into settings and set it to like a fairly quick timeout, so there's no input; it just turns off.
Okay.
So I think I don't know whether I set it or whether it's by default, but it was on to just stay on, or to stay on for like a ridiculous amount of time. So what would happen is I'd be playing a game, put it down, go do something, come back an hour later, and the controller would still be on. Um, So I don't know whether that was me and then I just fixed a problem I created, but it's helped me just putting that on a shorter one, just so that it's a bit more efficient. It just turns off. It'd be nice if it just turned off when you're not using it for like 10 seconds, but then just turned immediately back on as soon as you press one of the buttons.
Yeah,
I don't
like
know
a
why you have.
low power mode kind of thing.
Yeah, I don't know why you have to like turn the PS button on every time, like boot it up. Like, can I just be in a state of like sleep, and then as soon as you press a button, it wakes back up?
Yeah, I mean, we'll send them a
Um,
letter and see if they can
Yeah,
work
I
on
might
that.
do actually. Yeah, I might do. And I'll ask if they could uh, bring a smaller one out or a DualShock 4.
Can you make a baby one, please?
Yeah.
You mentioned the stick drift. That reminds me, I was playing again with my nephew. I think it was like Fortnite, months ago,
Mm.
and he was playing on his PS5. I could, we were talking over voice chat, and he blows into his controller, and I can hear it. I'm like, "What are you doing?" It's like, "Oh, that will fix stick drift if you blow into like the sticks." And I'm like, "What? I've never heard this." And it's just this weird old man full circle thing where it's like that's what he did with cartridges back in the day. That
Yeah,
was the thing to
that's not
say.
real, is it?
No, that wouldn't even work. It would just like
Okay, cool,
add
cool, cool,
moisture
cool.
and
Yeah,
like
yeah,
it would make it
yeah.
worse.
Because like, where would you even be blowing, like, to fix the stick drift? Like,
Just
because you can
somewhere
just
in
see
the
the outside of
sticks.
the stick,
Hey
just
man,
in
that's
it.
there's no logic here. I think he watched one TikTok and he's like, "Yes, I will do
Right.
that."
Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, it's
I was curious. I was like, does this work? I've
right.
got, yeah, I'm gonna have to literally buy a new controller.
Hey,
Because also I've got the problem where if I'm using my portal, that'll then run out of charge.
right.
Um, and then I have nothing. But to be fair, I have been playing, trying to revive my PC a little bit. So hang on, I've got a squeaky toy. Let me disarm that. There we go.
It's like, "Father, I brought you a document. Here you go."
Yes, yeah. But yeah, I've been trying to play on my PC a bit more. I bought a new CPU yesterday, so
Ooh.
and I say that I was kind of forced to go on my PC because of the controller situation. And whilst I was there, I've just been enjoying it. So hopefully I'll get a bit more use out of it now. Now that I'm too lazy to go get a controller.
Well, Callum, you're in luck, and it's a superb segue into our next story here. We got Helldivers 2 gets PC/PS5 crossplay at launch. This is coming out February 8th. I'm just stoked for this game, and
Mm.
it's the closer we get to it, I'm just excited, and so that's really why I wanted to talk about it. But
Mm.
where's your interest in this Helldivers game coming out?
Yeah, I think it looks amazing. It looks suspiciously good though. I think there's something.
Mm,
I don't know whether it's just my pessimism, but I loved Helldivers as well. But I don't know. It just seems a bit too good to be true. I just feel, you just feel like what's the catch? Like, is it going to
right.
be? Is it going to be like no content? Is it going to be locked behind paywalls? Is it going to be like battle pass and weird, annoying stuff like that? Because it's never perfect, is it? You always get a game and you're like, oh, why did they do it this weird, annoying way? Whilst everything else is like fine. So hopefully it's really great. If it is really great, I can see it as a game that's really gonna. I've been looking for like a good game to play for a few months, like on and off for a while. So hopefully this will be it. And yeah, the crossplay is great because I primarily game on PlayStation, as you know, but I've got friends who game on PC, so it'd be nice to be able to play with both of them.
Yeah, and I don't have much experience with the original. It was the same thing where I know it looked cool, but I just never jumped in. And this kind of upgrade in its style just really calls out to me. I don't know if this is free to play. I think this is an actual like
Yeah, I
$50,
think it's
$60
so.
release,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, I think it is.
So that does give me hope that maybe they're not going to shove in the really annoying,
Yeah.
just features of those kind of games where you can hopefully you get it. It's content, rich with what you're buying, at least
Hmm.
early on, and then there's cosmetic stuff, fine. But
Yeah,
it looks red.
yeah, it does. It looks awesome. Yeah, I'm really excited.
Nice. And that's coming out pretty darn soon. Move on, Callan. We got now a recap. We're gonna start just get a good recap of what PlayStation has possibly coming up in 2024, and really the focus is what are the first parties up to? What do we know they've done recently? What can we theorize? Maybe what's coming down the line. And I do like to do this every when we're doing the pod before. I like to do this once a year to just to like refresh. Like, hey,
Mm.
who's all now part of the group? At least with the big first party stuff. What are they doing? What's a scuttlebutt? What's a rumor tied to each studio right now? And then just kind of go over that. But we will
Mhm.
start in pretty much alphabetical order. So we got Bend Studio, which is our first one up. Sony Bend Studio. They're based out of Bend, Oregon, known for the Siphon Filter series, Uncharted Golden Abyss on Vita, and Days Gone, of course. So their last release was in 2019, Days Gone on PS4. They did a PC port in 2021, and there was a PS5 free update in 2020. So this April, Days Gone will be 5 years old. Another little blurb here. We got in 2021, Bloomberg's Jason Schreier reported that Bend Studio pitched Days Gone 2 to Sony in 2019, but was shot down. Sony Bend has confirmed they're working on a new original IP set in an open world. How do you feel about all of this? Them taking possibly a new IP, or definitely going on into a new IP, not handling Days Gone again because maybe they don't have the choice anymore. But what do you
Yeah.
think we could see from them?
They said something on Twitter, didn't they, recently, Ben?
They
Like
did. I
some
didn't pull
kind
that
of
tweet. It,
yeah, some kind of like ambiguous thing that didn't really mean anything other than that making a game, which I think we all we all
that's
knew that's
Yeah,
what
the
they
tweet
do.
was, it literally said like, we're cooking. Somebody
Right.
asked like, what's the status on the new thing? So
Oh,
they're
okay.
making
Yeah,
it.
okay. So it's not like they just went out purposely. It was like in reply to somebody.
Yeah.
Okay, that's less cringy then, I guess. Um, but yeah, no, I really like Bend. I liked Days Gone. Didn't finish it. I plan to play it again, especially now on PS5. Or so I've heard. It's 60 FPS and doesn't have
It
the
is.
horrible
I did try
chugging,
that.
and yeah, so I'd like to play again. I thought it was a cool game. I think it's quite. I think one thing that kind of jarred a lot of people, but I didn't really mind, was the kind of story stuff is quite disconnected from when you're playing the game. Um, like things like when you go to a cutscene, it'll suddenly just like it'll even show you like that it changes to like nighttime or something, and then you have a cutscene that's really specific to that
Right.
current thing going on, which I think is cool because I think sometimes I'm playing Remnant 2 at the moment, and I think sometimes, like when you go and speak to somebody, and the cutscene is essentially just you speaking to them and just like tapping through dialogue and all that kind of stuff. It's quite nice to have a game that also wants to use cutscenes and um, things like in that way. So I kind of appreciated that about it. But yeah, I'd like to go back to it. It was a pretty cool game, and yeah, it's a shame that they won't be doing a sequel, but they're clearly a great studio. So fingers crossed, whatever they're doing is cool.
Yeah, I mean, I think they really nailed the open world in Days Gone. I mean, I didn't see a
Mm,
lot of criticism with that. Traversing the world was fun. When you have your different, you have your motorcycle, just maintaining the issues with that and gas and whatnot, upgrades, and the horde system was really interesting. And
yeah,
I didn't like how long it took to get to see these like crazy, piles of zombies running against you or at you. But
yeah.
I'd like to see maybe that. I don't know if they're going to do the same kind of, but I'd like to see that mechanic carried over in some way, just like throwing maybe a bunch of characters on screen. I wonder if they're still going to implement something like that in this next game. But
Yeah.
yeah, I'm excited to see what they do. Days Gone never didn't really hit for me, but I have this feeling a lot with games where it's like, okay, this one isn't for me, but I'm really excited to see what they do, learning from this and what they go forward in the future with.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Again, like, and we haven't seen it for so long that it could be like a really cool. It's like that thing, isn't it? So you can go from being like, oh, there's no sort of games coming out from like Sony first party or Xbox first party or something, but then a day could pass, and just from like two announcements, that whole narrative can change. So, and Ben's one of those studios that's been silent for so long that when they do announce something, it is going to be like an entirely new kind of shift on things to be excited for, I guess. Hopefully, anyway.
Yeah, and so Days Gone did come out almost 5 years ago. They
Yeah.
did spend some time doing the PC port and then that PS5 upgrade. So you have to imagine they've got to be in the midst working on the new thing. I wonder how long it's going to take for us to see it. I wouldn't doubt. I would imagine this year could be, because we haven't had a state of play in a while. That's one of the big issues people are having with PlayStation. We don't know what's coming on technically down the line, but this could be one where we could see an image, maybe a short CG trailer. But I feel like we
Mm.
could get an idea of what they're working on this year.
Yeah, hopefully. And hopefully the kind of thing with the sequel wasn't drawn out like after release.
Right.
Um, so that it kind of like delayed, production on the new project or whatever. But yeah, exciting to see what they're working on, because again, it is sort of an unknown. I mean, Uncharted Golden Abyss was really cool, but Days Gone was like their first venture out into doing something AAA. So yeah, it's exciting to see what they're up to.
Yes, sir. So moving on to our next one here, we got Blue Point Games. They are based in Austin, Texas. They're acquired by Sony in 2021. Known for impressive remakes like Shadow of the Colossus 2018, Uncharted Nathan Drake Collection in 2015, the God of War Collection, Metal Gear Solid HD Collection, and so on. Their last release was in 2020 with Demon Souls Remake on PS5, so it has been a minute. Now here's a recent news online, rumors online, is part of the Insomniac hack of 2023 revealed a piece of concept art potentially for Blue Point's next game, which would be an original IP set in a fantasy world with floating cities. We have no idea the legitimacy of that. It's just an image. It could be an artist, just like part of their portfolio. But it has been a while from Blue Point. What do you think? Do you think they're actually tackling their own IP, another remaster? What do you think?
Yeah, again, another really interesting one because they kind of it's like a win-win for them really, just through their own kind of games. But if they bring out a remake of something, then it's going to be great because that's what they've done and that's what they've done so well. But if it's an original IP, it's exciting to see how what are they going to do, because the games they've done are quite different from each other, but also because they were following something so closely. So it'd be interesting to see what they um, do without that kind of restriction. That when they can really do what they want to do and explore things they want to explore. So that would be super exciting. And again, another, because again, like, as much as the remakes, especially the Demon Souls remake, is a massive remake from the ground up, there's still, if you've played, I mean, I never played the original Demon Souls, but from what I understand, there's still, if you've played the original, you're not missing out on the kind of core experience. But so it'd be interesting, for them to kind of have something that's their own, that will just be so exciting for everyone to kind of finally see.
Yeah, and I think the fact that we haven't seen anything from them in a while makes me lean more into the legitimacy of them tackling a new IP, because I feel like if they were doing another remaster, we wouldn't have waited 5 years to hear anything about it, or 4 years. I think we would have got some kind of announcement already. It's got to take way longer, of course, to start building something from the ground up, working on all these mechanics from the ground up for a new IP. I do wonder, and it's a weird thought, but it's like they broke their teeth, sharpened their teeth, whatever the term is, on remastering games, and so they're used to understanding the mechanics and the feel, the vibe of the world, and they nail it. But their creative chops we've yet to see almost. But I'm sure that they have awesome talent, awesome people working there. It's just we haven't seen what they would do if they had their full control over what project they
Mm.
want to make and what kind of mechanics they want to have. So it's weird, but it's like I know they're going
Yeah,
to kill it. It's just I'm unsure of what we'll see.
yeah, it's a unique situation. I don't think we've ever really, or from what I understand, had somebody like Blue Point who kind of put that kind of effort into remaking something, and then to see them then go and make something their own. It's usually the other way around. I mean, I don't know much about Blue Point's history, to be fair. I don't know whether they used to make their own stuff, if they've always been a kind of porting remake kind of studio. But either way, with their current team and the current kind of setup, it'll be interesting to see what they do unrestricted with their own ideas.
Yeah, and I have their wiki pulled up here. So Demon Souls 2020, talk about Shadow of the Colossus, Gravity Rush remastered. A lot of remasters going back all the way to 2009. 2006, there's something called Blast Factor, which looks like it is a game developed by them. So that was in 2006.
We getting
Otherwise,
Blast Factor 2.
could be. Could be. We haven't had a. I wouldn't doubt it. I wouldn't like, or I wouldn't. I
Oh yeah,
wouldn't
cool.
be
Okay.
mad
It's
at
like
it.
a little arcade shooter. Looks pretty cool, actually.
And
Stranded on
HouseMarque isn't
PS3
working
though.
on those things anymore, so maybe we need somebody else to
No,
tackle.
exactly. Yeah, yeah.
Alrighty, Caleb. We'll move on here. We got two quick ones here because we did talk about last podcast when we were recapping the last couple of years with PlayStation. But we got Firesprite, based in Liverpool, England. The studio was acquired by Sony in 2021. Fabric Game Studio out of Manchester was shortly folded into Firesprite in that same time. So they made The Persistence in 2018 on PSVR and PS4, and then they also did Horizon Call of the Mountain in 2023. I think it's safe to say that game is so recent that we're not going to see anything from them for a while, but
Mm.
I would imagine they also stick with a VR related game, a PSVR related game.
Yeah, I think that will be the sign, won't it? Whether or not PlayStation is going to leave the VR to die like they did with the Vita, and just sort of pull all first party support of it. But hopefully not. The PSVR 2 is clearly a more expensive thing than the Vita probably was. You'd have to assume so.
Right.
Yeah, hopefully, Firesprite are a good team, so it'd be good to see them continue to support PSVR 2 for the people who have one and actually spent their money on one.
Right. Yeah, it's interesting, and we are in a weird space with PSVR 2, but I mean, it just launched. It's really too early to say, but I do hope that they stick with this, and because it could be something
Mm.
cool. We talked about it,
Mm.
a lot recently, but yeah, we're in the early midst of seeing how successful that will be. But so we got Firesprite there. Firewalk Studios, they're out of Bellevue, Washington, acquired by Sony in 2023. They announced their first AAA first party release with PlayStation the same year, titled Concord. It's set to release in 2024. So that is a game, at least at the moment, set to release this year. It's going to be a multiplayer based first person shooter. All we have is a teaser kind of CGI trailer, given the idea of the vibe. But any thoughts on what this game would end up being?
I'd heard about this, but I hadn't actually seen anything. And looking at Google Images, doesn't look like there's been much about it. But yeah, I don't know. I don't really know much about this one, to be honest. But like I said before, I'm trying to dip my toes back into multiplayer a little bit. I've been playing the finals recently, which I've been really enjoying. So I think the kind of space is there for something to kind of capture my attention. And again, just have as that like kind of meta game that you kind of chip away at. So yeah, interested to see more about it. Yeah, just currently I just don't really know. I haven't really looked into much about it or seen anything about it really.
Yeah, all we have is really just a CG trailer showing a ship flying through space, showing the inside of the cabin and all kinds of doodads and stuff. So we really don't have an idea. They're shooting in some capacity involved. It's multiplayer FPS, but
It's a
it's
pew
really
pew
just
game.
it's a pew pew
It's a
game. Yeah,
lasers go pew pew. Yeah,
in
cool.
space.
Yeah, in space. Yes.
Awesome, Cal. We'll keep moving on. We got a big one here is Guerilla Games, based in Amsterdam, acquired by Sony in 2005. They're known for the Killzone and Horizon series, of course. So Horizon Forbidden West released in 2022 on PS5 and PS4. They did have the Forbidden West DLC, Burning Shores, that released in April 2023. And days later, Guerrilla confirmed they are working on the next mainline entry in the franchise. So here's another rumor scuttlebutt that's been floating around online recently. A job posting from Guerrilla Games in November 2023 listed that the studio was looking for a senior combat designer who would, quote, design multiple machine enemies that provide a variety of challenges against multiple players, end quote, which points to a potential multiplayer game set in the Horizon franchise. This is something I know I've seen online for a while that they're dabbling to this. They have multiple Horizon irons in the fire. How do you feel about them tackling a multiplayer game next, or just another entry in Horizon?
Yeah, I don't really know yet because I didn't hop back on the Horizon train when the second game came out. I started it but never continued on. So it's difficult to really even know if I'm excited or not. I think I'll kind of reserve that until I've played Forbidden West, and then see how I feel. But either way, Guerrilla are great, so normally what they make's great. I just don't know how burnt out I'll feel after Forbidden West, or how people feel now after Forbidden West, and now the kind of break well, I say break's been what, 2 years, so it hasn't been that long ago. But yeah, interested to see what they're up to. I miss Killzone, and I'd like to see like a good shooter again. But Horizon's great as well, so you can't really complain.
Yeah, it's a bummer where I love Horizon, but man, I really don't. I hope they just don't forget they're sitting on these awesome Sony in general, sitting on these awesome properties, been
Mm,
dormant for a while. One of those is Killzone, and at the moment, Sony doesn't have their own original strong FPS competitor out there.
mm.
They have that deal with Call of Duty, which is ending soon, where they've really just like promoted that on PlayStation as a place to play. But man, Killzone is just such an awesome world to go back to. I mean, they could literally do anything in that world, and with that Decima engine, make it look amazing. And so,
Mm.
but it's like seems like it's all hands on board, just focusing on Horizon.
Yeah, I think it's just one of those where they just need to milk all the money out of it. I guess it's just too much of an
Yeah,
opportunity to turn down, which is a shame. You see it with Insomniac, which we'll probably go on to later, becoming basically a Marvel studio. Um, you can understand why, but it is also a shame because you'd like to see studios try different stuff. Gorilla's a perfect example of that. They tried something different, it paid off, and now they're kind of stuck doing it, which is kind of ironic. But so yeah, it's nice to see studios branch out. But again, when you're as good as Gorilla, it maybe doesn't really matter what they make. It's probably going to be great. Um, and they've got experience multiplayer. Granted, a different kind of multiplayer, but Killzone 2 had some of the best multiplayer of that era, I think. So, and it was a long time ago. Might not be anybody left there who worked on that, but it's at least ingrained in their DNA in some way. So, Horizon, that kind of game itself wasn't in their DNA before it came out, and they did a really good job. So, no reason to think they can't add on some multiplayer stuff and not do a good job as well.
Right. Yeah, I agree. We will see, but it's probably 2024. I don't think we're going to get any announcements from Guerrilla on what they're working on. So moving on, we got Haven Studios, Haven Entertainment Studios. They're acquired by Sony in 2022. They're based in Montreal, Canada. Haven was founded by industry vet Jade Raymond, known for helping develop huge properties like Assassin's Creed and Watch Dogs, as well as building Ubisoft Toronto and Motive Studio. Haven Studios was initially created in 2021, with Sony investing to create a new IP for PlayStation, and they would later be acquired by Sony. The first project is Fair Games, was revealed 2023. It's a multiplayer heist shooter coming to PS5 and PC. No launch window just yet. All we have is a concept kind of trailer that I have playing in the background. Callum, what do you think about this? It's a new studio. We have no idea, but they have the pedigree of Jade Raymond attached to it. But what do you think?
Again, I think this is more of a recent thing where it might be a bit more of interest, but because of the finals, playing that recently, a multiplayer high shooter sounds good to me.
Yeah,
I mean, yeah, I mean, I don't know much again about the studio or what to kind of expect, but I don't like the name. I don't like that they use the dollar
with
for
the
the
dollar sign.
S.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, why not? Let's see. Again, we were just saying that there needs to be more multiplayer centric shooters. So yeah, hopefully this will come out and be good.
Yeah, PlayStation did announce, it's maybe a year or 2 years now, that they were going to focus on games as a service or multiplayer, focus games going
Mm,
forward, or having that suite under their belt. And it seems like we're now going to see that stuff pay off. Now we're also launching these games in a time where I don't know if there's fatigue, but these games are like either they make it or they don't. And there's millions of dollars on the line developing this stuff.
mm.
But now these games are finally, it seems like they're going to get closer to coming out, but they're going to have now a competitive scene with multiplayer games that are only on PlayStation.
Yeah, yeah, and especially with all these sort of other games, it seems. I mean, like with the finals, I didn't even know it was out. It was just one of those where I was like, oh, it's free to play. I've heard a little bit about it. I'll give it a go. So it might be that kind of space is going to hot up a little bit with little games like that. Because I mean, I'm pretty sure the finals is like a bunch of like ex devs from Battlefield and Mirror's Edge and things. So
I think you're right.
there could be lots of other games like that also coming out. So it'd be interesting to see the space when Fair Games is actually ready to go, if it ever gets there. But yeah, we'll see how it goes. But yeah, I'm definitely warming to multiplayer experience a little bit at the moment, but that could die off very soon. So
Yeah, it's tough to say.
yeah.
Now, Callum, moving on, we got HouseMarque. So HouseMarque, based in Helsinki, Finland, acquired by Sony in 2021. They're known for Super Stardust, Dead Nation, Resogun, and Returnal. So their last release was Returnal in 2021 on PS5. They had the Ascension DLC in 2022, and then PC port of Returnal in 2023. HouseMarque confirmed their next title will not be a sequel to Returnal, but instead a new IP for PlayStation. What do you think? Do you think they left Returnal too early? Maybe not by their own decision, but what can you expect we could see maybe from HouseMarque?
Yeah, I don't know. I think, to be honest, I think it's actually probably good that they're leaving it. I think it's one of those games that is so unique and in its own kind of world, that yeah, I just don't think it needed anything. It kind of would ruin the kind of surrealness of it. I think in some way. Um, so yeah, cool to know that obviously they're working on something new, because I think that's what they've always done. They've always done it really well, and they always bring out something really really cool. So again, another one where they haven't heard from them in a while. So it'd be interesting to see what's coming out of there.
Yeah, so Returnal 2021. We're going into 2024 now. 2-3 years past. I feel like still too early for them to announce anything this year. I would say we're not going to see anything from them until 2025 and beyond. But unless it's like another short experience, but they're pretty vocal about not wanting to go back to the 2D side scrolling or like top down kind of arcadey shooters. Seems like they're going to, I imagine, follow this line that they've created with Returnal, where it's cinematic experiences with their awesome gameplay implemented. All right,
Yeah,
Callum, we got.
yeah. I think the fact they've moved into that kind of space it just opens up the kind of games they can make now, I suppose.
Yep, we will see. I'm excited. I love HouseMarque, even though Returnal I'm a baby with these games.
Mm.
It was way too hard for me, but It's another
Yeah.
one. I had Days Gone to that list where it's like, this one isn't hidden for me, but I can't wait for what they do next because I
Mm.
think that one might
Yeah.
be what calls out.
Yeah.
Now the weird one here is Insomniac Games. Not we basically all know what's coming down with them, but let's go into the history a little bit with Insomniac. So they're based in Burbank, California, acquired by Sony in 2019, known for the Ratchet and Clank series, Resistance, Sunset Overdrive, and the Marvel Spider-Man series. Their last release was Marvel Spider-Man 2 in 2023 on PS5. Insomniac revealed they're working on a Wolverine game for PS5. Now, due to that infamous Insomniac hack, we have the roadmap of what they're working on, and who knows what the dates will stay because it's the video game industry and this stuff always gets delayed. But their plans supposedly are a Venom game set in 2025, Wolverine set in 2026, Spider-Man 3 in 2028, Ratchet and Clank in 2029, and an X-Men game in 2030. There was some supposed multiplayer Spider-Man game that apparently was canceled, but in the works. But we haven't really talked about the roadmap for Insomniac yet. How do you feel about at least this stuff coming down the line? You mentioned not being a fan of their focus on the Marvel games, but what do you think?
Yeah, I think it depends again on how we'd feel by like 2030 when that X-Men game is like, let's say hypothetically it all goes to plan. Like, is it just going to be another one of those things where you're just so fatigued by it? And no doubt it'll sell crazy because it's Marvel, but just the kind of common man, as you will, who is tired of um like the MCU, for example, at the moment, and things like that. I just worry about the kind of fatigue of just only doing the same thing. Like we were saying earlier, it's always nice when someone just comes out and something completely different. Um, but I at least did expect. We knew Wolverine was coming. I think everyone's fine with that, and we knew there'd probably be another Spider-Man. And I'm assuming Venom would be like a Miles Morales style kind of game.
I would say so too.
But yeah, I just think to know that they're then going to go, because aren't they then going to go to like another X-Men game and all this kind of stuff. So yeah, good to see Ratchet and Clank still in there. I'm not the biggest fan of the latest one, but hopefully they'll kind of address that, because I think a lot of the criticisms were sort of quite broad as well in just the kind of general theme of the game. It just feels like a Disney game,
Mm.
which I guess plays into this maybe. Now they represent Marvel in such a way, that's maybe why Ratchet and Clank's had to be dumbed down a little bit. But yeah, I mean, we'll see. Insomniac are great, and I'm sure all these games will be amazing, and I'll definitely be playing them. But yeah, it's just a shame that they can't branch out and they can't make Resistance. Like, there's no Resistance on there, so we know now, and we know that it's dead, which is the saddest part of this all, I think.
Yeah, it's you touch on Resistance, so that reminds me. I just listened to. I'm a huge fan of the Sacred Symbols podcast with Colin
Mm,
Moriarty. They go into depth on this, and I would recommend if you're interested listening to that podcast that they put out recently. But they go into depth on the financial aspect that was part of this data hack that was released, potentially how much revenue some of these games made, and they go through all of them. And apparently, the Resistance games started fairly strong with like 3-4 million sold, and then as they went on, by the last one, it was like around 1 million,
right.
and it just wasn't, it seems like worth it. And then they talk about the budgets for some of these games and they're ridiculous. So I imagine
Mm,
if you're selling that many copies, the budgets even then were still large, so it just wasn't cost effective. But it's so crazy when these games are loved by a lot, but it seems like not
mm.
enough people actually played them and
But why is
stuck with it.
and it goes back to like what we were saying about Last of Us. Like, why does everything have to be like the greatest?
Yeah,
Like just give me like a 10-hour Resistance game. Is that too much to ask? Is
right.
that
It's
is that too much?
no, it's an interesting aspect. I want to see somebody who's smarter tackle this where I want to see a lot of these budgets kind of stacked up from game to
Mm,
game and just go like, hey, where's the industry at where these budgets for these games are insane and they take long. There's a lot that they're packing into these games, but is there a way to like dwindle these down budget wise and scope wise to release something that doesn't cost as much? Is still successful. Like, does it have to be we're spending 500 million, 300 million on these games, and then we have to sell, X
mm.
amount of million to cover that cost? Like, there's got to be room for these smaller experiences.
Someone like Machine Games who did Wolfenstein would have been great. to make a Resistance game, I think.
Absolutely.
But I think there's lots of people who could. Like, it doesn't have to necessarily be at one of your prime time studios where the budget has to be, you know, a certain way to make a ridiculous amount of money. I mean, surely there's space for a new project and, you know, something like that. I mean, the thing is, like, it's always vying with like other pitches and ideas, isn't it? So um, I guess it's not like anyone's dropping the ball or anything. It's just one of those. But I'd just love to see it back because it was so good. But I just don't know whether it's kind of a product of its time as well. The first game was so, I think because it was PS3 release game as well, you had all like the crazy like physics and the game felt like really real in a lot of ways and very like heavy, which is definitely lost in Resistance 2 and 3, but I just remember it being like one of those have to be there kind of games, and it was just so good. But yeah, I'd like to see it back. I think it's a really cool story. I love the like iconography of it all, like the Chimera and how they look and how their ships look and the guns and just all of the stuff is top notch. So I'd like to see it back, but I've also got 1,000 other games to play, so
Yeah.
I'm not that worried.
Yeah, it's interesting because Insomniac is a studio where they're the strongest when they're allowed to be the most creative, but it seems like the more creative they get, the less they sell. Like look at Sunset Overdrive, such a weird, unique experience that was really cool, but apparently did not sell very well. You look at the Resistance series, their strong point was their innovation with these guns being just so out of left field, but it wasn't a strong series apparently. And then you go to Marvel Spider-Man, I would argue that it's less weird as Insomniac is. They're kind of like they really nailed Spider-Man, and now they're sticking with those core mechanics, but they're not as weird as they were before. But it's the most successful property that they have, so I don't know how that works with them.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
But I imagine nothing this year from them. I mean, so much stuff that has been revealed, and I think they're just gonna like put the heads down, work on stuff for a little
lay
bit.
low for a bit. Yeah.
Yes. So moving on, Callum, we got London Studio. They're based in London, England, and founded in 2002. They're a result of a merger between Team Soho and SEE Studio, Liverpool's Camden offshoot studio. They have operated under PlayStation Studios since 2005. They're known for the Getaway series, SingStar series, developing games for Sony's iToy webcam, PlayStation Home, PlayStation VR Worlds for PSVR. Their last release was Blood and Truth on PSVR in 2019. In 2022, Sony London announced they were working on a new online co-op game for PS5 set in a fantasy London. This one is apparently not VR based. You can play it, or at least you can play it standard as well. But how do you feel about?
I never knew this.
Yes, this is on the news or in the internet, and it is not just like a weird tweet or something they have announced.
Yeah.
But yeah, what do you think about them tackling possibly a fantasy London co-op game on PS5?
Yeah, that sounds very cool. Yeah, I mean, just when you're talking about saying London, it reminded me of the Getaway straight away, and I know this is probably quite different, but it's just nice when studios make stuff in their kind of roots, you know, like making stuff. I mean, I know that people work remote now, but for people who go into like office every day, like making something where you work is probably quite fulfilling and not easier, but you know, easier to gain inspiration, I guess, because you can just go out the door.
Right.
But yeah, that sounds really cool. Yeah, I didn't know that had sort of been announced. So yeah, looking forward to seeing what that's like. I think Blood and Truth was a kind of London gangster thing as well, wasn't it?
Yeah. Yeah. And I didn't play that and have PSVR when it
Yeah, we
launched.
need more London gangster video game stuff, I think.
I was gonna say you mentioned the Getaway, and that's a series where I never played it, but I was always so interested in these GTA games coming out.
Yeah.
They were tackling that world and trying to do what GTA
The
did.
Getaway is so hard. It's the hardest game. Both
Really?
of them are just so, yeah, like you know every time you have like an annoying mission in like one of the old GTAs, that's what every mission in the Getaway is like. It's just so bloody difficult. But yeah, it's great. It's got a really cool story, and you know, I remember it being, at least to my young eyes, very revolutionary. Like I remember being amazed at how when you run upstairs, like they actually go up each step individually,
Yep.
and sort of things like that. It was very immersive for its time. And yeah, it had a very bleak kind of vibe to it. But yeah, great game. And I guess, I mean, this isn't really I guess it's not like a spiritual successor, but the fact it's set in London, it's a normal kind of console game. Co-op sounds interesting, and fantasy London. I mean, I don't know whether that's expanded on at all in the kind of write-ups, but that sounds cool as well, even though it's quite broad, but still sounds very cool.
Right. And this is a studio where they're kind of their bread and butter is, it seems like Sony says, hey, we have a new peripheral, make a thing for it. And they go, yes, sir. And so they've kind of focused on supporting whatever new thing coming out. And then with VR as well. So I'm interested to see what their take is on, like, maybe the reins are taken off a bit. It's like, hey, you can make something that isn't tied to some kind of product release. It's like, make a game. And so I'm really excited to see what they do.
Yeah, definitely.
All right, Kyle, moving along. Got Media Molecule. They're based in Guildford in Surrey, England, acquired by Sony in 2010, known for the Little Big Planet series Tearaway and Dreams. The last release was Dreams in 2020 on PS4. Development on Dreams began in 2012 and lasted 7 years, with production rebooting twice during that period. So in April 2023, Media Molecule announced that they would stop supporting Dreams in September of that year. Their future game will not be related to Dreams. The game is still available to purchase and play/create with others online, but no new content or updates will continue to roll out. Media Molecule does still support and feature Dreams creations made within the community on their Twitter account. So Callum, no more Dreams. We talked about Dreams in the past. It's a bummer to see it go away, but it was also there's just a lot of stuff with Dreams where it's just like, I don't know where that was going to go. But what do you think about leaving Dreams behind and working on something else?
Yeah, it's one of those where it's been so long since they've brought out a game other than Dreams that you kind of wonder what the makeup of Media Molecule is kind of like now. Is it still the same, people? Does it still have the same, you know, studio kind of vibe and atmosphere? It's difficult to know what kind of thing we would see from them. I mean, you'd assume it would be something quirky and weird, but I mean, I guess the last game they made was that I can't remember what it's called now, something to do with art. But it was like the kind of single player experience on Dreams, which I assume Media Molecule made. It might have been made by somebody else, but that was the kind of game packaged with Dreams, which I really liked. And it was really cool. Had lots of different, obviously showcasing, like you can do lots of different kinds of games on it. But the story was really, really cool, I remember. So maybe something even down that kind of story track, because I think that had a very like grim fandango, old school narrative vibe. So maybe even something like that, a kind of adventure puzzle game could be quite cool. But yeah, that's an interesting one to see just where their kind of heads at and what kind of vision that they all collectively have. It'd be interesting to know what that is.
Yeah, the last thing from doing some research, all I could see was a game called Tren that was around 2021-ish.
Ooh.
It's a game that it's still within Dreams, but it's like a
Oh, okay.
train-based kind of creation tool within Dreams that Media Molecule, apparently they developed it. But yeah, it's weird, man. I mean, Dreams had a lot of potential because they basically made a game engine that was like accessible to anyone, but leaving it on that PlayStation platform, and then also there was no desire to bring it to PS5. I mean, it seemed like maybe the cost was so big, they took so long on it. Sony was just interested in having them work on something else. I was even in fear of like, maybe this thing gets shut, like the studio gets shut down because I would imagine Dreams wasn't as profitable as they wanted it to be. They spent so long on it, but you also have that crazy talent with Media Molecule. But you mentioned maybe there's been turnover since then. So what does that studio look like now? I don't know, but I'm again interested to see what they tackle next.
Yeah, Art's Dream was what it was called.
The launch one, yeah.
And that was really cool. And I don't know whether that is indicative of maybe something, because I think for them to make something using their Dreams engine, which is obviously there to show, basically be like untethered in your creativity. I think the fact that they made something like that maybe indicates that that's kind of where everyone's head's at in the kind of game that they want to make. I'm not saying like about a jazz musician or anything like that, but that kind of like adventure. It reminds me of like, I don't know if you've played like the old Discworld games, Discworld Noir, and these kind of point and click adventure games like Monkey Island and things. But that's the kind of, I don't know, just general like core vibe I got from Artstream, and I'd love to see more games like that. I really enjoyed that. So fingers crossed. That's kind of maybe my shot in the dark at where I'd like it to kind of go if they were to release something.
Yeah, and we'll move on from Media Molecule, but I get a vibe with them. It's like Sony doesn't like them. It's weird where so you have Dreams, they worked on it for so long, it's on PS4, but there was no port to PS5. Like, why not try and keep
Mm,
this thing alive longer and maybe try and, over time, reap some of the costs it took to have, especially a game like that where it's like it lives and dies off of this community, building stuff,
yeah.
making those games, playing those games. And when's the last time you heard Sony,
But
focus on
also, online
Dreams?
communities are the worst as well. Like, this is the thing. You sort of make a game like that, and then, I mean, I don't know. I could be talking absolute rubbish, but I'd assume you go on there and you go on the community menu, and it is just full of crap. Like, I don't know. My little niece plays Roblox, and she plays all of the community games, and some of them are just so horrifying,
Oh yeah.
just because anyone can do it. And there is a kind of thing there is a kind of thing that kind of puts me off of stuff like that where the social element is that big, where I'm just like, I don't really want to be in this space of weirdness, because it's just, yeah, it's just too much. It's too things are just too easy to access now, so it just makes games like that for me personally a little bit more uncomfortable, or just not really the kind of, it just doesn't feel like it's something I really want to be involved in a weird way. I don't know
Yeah.
if that really makes sense.
Well,
It's
you
just weird.
mentioned Roblox, and that's interesting because Roblox is huge. There's a
Mm,
huge community there. There's microtransactions. There's like a lot of money
mhm,
being made on Roblox.
mhm.
And Dream Mini
It's
Molecule.
horrifying. Have you seen it? Have you
Oh
seen?
yeah, I've seen. Yep, I've seen, and it varies. Like you can have interesting experiences and just like garbage stuff, like meme
Yeah,
stuff.
it's
But
just so weird.
I bring it up because that platform, it's its own platform and it's successful. It's
Mm,
like, but
yeah.
you could have had something like that with Dreams, where you have this community of people making stuff, whether it's for us or
Mm,
not, but it's like it's still successful. There's stuff that people are buying in that game, they're creating in that game, and it's with Roblox, it's huge. Like they basically built that with Dreams, and then they just said, we'll just let it die." Like
yeah.
why? I
Yeah,
don't know.
yeah, it is weird, but maybe that's the thing. Maybe Roblox just cannibalized that kind of space, but I think it kind of happened quite silently, because I know Roblox has been massive for years now.
Yeah,
It's only recently it's come to console and things like that. So um, yeah, maybe it was just quietly cannibalizing that kind of market, and that's why Dreams, because imagine a world without Roblox, maybe Dreams would, maybe not, because it's not on PC, is it?
that's the
I don't know.
thing. Roblox
Yeah,
had mobile and PC support, so people could
yeah.
create there, vice versa, go back to console. It's like they really tried to build out this platform, and Dreams was locked to PlayStation. You couldn't move stuff around. One of the issues I had is like you couldn't sell it, so you have people creating stuff with no benefit to
Mm,
like keep making it because you basically
mm,
made a game engine that you can't, as a creator, profit from, which would incentivize you to keep creating in it. It's just weird, man. And they spent so long
mm.
making it.
Yeah. Yeah, they did spend a long time making it. And that's the thing as well, like paying creators is going to be such a difficult one, because
I understand.
like with Epic as well, they obviously released that creator stuff, and then they, a few months later, brought out this statement about being unsustainable and having to lay off lots of their staff. So I assume that's related to, all these payouts they've now got to give to people making stuff in their creation, which is another thing that was huge. I don't really hear about it anymore. I don't know whether it's still use that actively. But that was huge when it first came out, the kind of creator stuff in Fortnite. I never played it or touched it, but even that seemed to make a bigger pop than Dreams, which is interesting. Well, I
So
guess it's not interesting because Fortnite's massive, but
right.
yeah, it was
My
already massive
nephews,
before.
you mentioned that creation side of it with Fortnite. My nephews, they almost exclusively play those different game modes that are created in that. So it seems like, just going off of them, it seems like that side of Fortnite is huge too.
Well, I heard there's a no build mode on it as well, and this just shows how much I'm, changing my tune on certain games. But I thought, because the only reason I don't play Fortnite is because I used to enjoy it, but then people would just do crazy building stuff and just turn into like a hotel,
Yeah.
and I just cannot. And then that also adds to like the twitchiness where you're like running around trying to peek around like fucking angled steps and stairs, and I just couldn't get on with it. But hearing there's a no build mode, and also I think it's been out for so long now that it must be so tuned and play so well and all the kind of stuff that, do you remember when it was like first a thing and they started adding like weird characters and like licensed stuff? Everyone was a bit like, it's a bit cringe. But I think now it's been so long that it's just like whatever. Like there must be like thousands of skins on there now.
There are.
So it's kind of just got to a point where like it's kind of numbed you to the kind of cringe level of it. So I've been thinking about maybe possibly jumping into that and seeing if it's any fun. But um, yeah, we'll see. The creator mode, I just can't. I just don't have the willpower anymore to do anything. So I probably won't jump into that.
I hear you. And I'll touch lightly on, you mentioned that no build mode. That's really been my way back in with Fortnite and play with my nieces and nephews again, is they have that mode. There's no building. And for me, it's like, it's so fast paced with building. It's just like, it's always been a turn off. And you have
Yeah.
that mode where there's even attachments that you can find in the world on your gun that make it like a first person shooter. And so they've really like created another angle so you can play this thing like a Call of Duty, like a third person game, first person game, and it makes it fun again. You don't have to worry about building. Yes, there are 1,000 licensed characters now. I don't know if you've seen recently, but they have Peter Griffin from Family Guy. He's in it for no reason. Every
I'm
Marvel
finding it
character.
funny now. Like before,
Yeah,
it was like, oh, why they keep adding like these random characters in? But now it's like because everything has been got. Now it's just like, oh, that's actually quite funny that there's a Peter Griffin running around. Because
right.
it's become that game. It's become that like shared multiverse kind of game for me, and I think that's actually fine now. I think I was probably just a bit judgmental of it, but I think now, like with hindsight, it's like it's become this kind of package where it's just got to the point where it's like, oh, they've added 5 new skins from this license thing. It's like, well, yeah, that's Fortnite, isn't it? So it's kind of numbed me to the pain.
Yeah, I understand. And it's not something that I'll jump on every once in a while, and I really use it as a way to connect with my
Mm,
younger nieces and nephews. But it's like, so
yeah,
I'll be playing sometimes, and I'm like, hey, it's
yeah,
kind of
yeah. That's
crazy
your
how
that's your
solid everything
excuse.
works.
That's your
Right.
excuse.
Yep. Alrighty, Colin, move on to the next one here. We got Naughty Dog. Naughty Dog was acquired in 2001. They're based in Santa Monica, California. They're known for the Crash Bandicoot franchise, Jack and Daxter, Uncharted series, and the Last of Us series, of course. So their last release is the upcoming Last of Us 2 PS5 remaster coming out January 19th. We know they just canceled the Last of Us 2 multiplayer project last month. In the same cancellation announcement, Naughty Dog said, quote, "We have more than one ambitious, brand new single player game that we're working on here at Naughty Dog," end quote. It's been rumored also that Naughty Dog has been working on a sci-fi themed game of some sort. Callum, moving on to you with Naughty Dog now, where they're not working on multiplayer. They're going to launch this Last of Us 2 PS5 remaster. How long do you think it'll be before we see anything from what they're working on? Do you think they've already been working on something else that we'll see soon? What do you think?
Yeah, I don't. I mean, it depends on how much resource went into this multiplayer game because obviously that's just been we've just been told it's been cancelled, and
Right.
um, so yeah, it'll be interesting to know what they are doing. I mean, obviously they their kind of games speak for themselves. Whatever they do, I'm sure will be great, but yeah, I don't know. I'm kind of down on them at the moment because of this whole thing. I just feel kind of that they misread the entire situation in terms of what people wanted from Last of Us multiplayer. Um, so yeah, just kind of in my bad books at the moment. They are.
I understand.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's, I guess, as a full force onto Last of Us 3. They do have now that TV show that's bringing people back into Last of Us, making that IP stronger. But does that studio they've basically lived in the Last of Us world as a studio for a while now. And at least they
Mm.
had Uncharted they would bounce back and forth between. But now that's pretty much, as far as we know, their connection to that is done. So do they want to stay in that Last of Us world? I like the idea of them tackling this potential, sci-fi themed game. Whatever they do, it's like they're got to be one of the top game developers just across the board. It's just a bummer to see that multiplayer thing being canceled, and knowing how long they take with their games. I mean, it's going to be a while before we know.
Yeah, definitely.
All right, Callum, got the next one here. Our PlayStation first party studio recap. We got Polyphony Digital. Polyphony Digital, based in Tokyo, Japan, an internal PlayStation studio going back to PlayStation 1. They're known for the Gran Turismo series. So Gran Turismo 7 just released in March 2022 for PS4, PS5. I imagine, Callum, we're not going to see anything from them for a while, and it's probably going to be another GT.
Yeah, you'd have to assume so. You would definitely that's where you'd bet your money. You'd bet it on being look at their track record.
Right.
But yeah, again, we talked about Gran Turismo last week and how we both want to play. It's always on sale actually, but still not enough. I think it's like £40, which is good, but it's just not where I value it right now for myself. But I'd like to play it. It's a massive game, a massive game series. For me, in my opinion, it is one of the game series. If you are somebody who at least it enjoys the odd racing game here or there, it is one of those games you just buy. It's like GTA in that regard. And Gran Turismo 7 is the first one where I haven't done that. But I will get it eventually. But yeah, we'll see how long. I don't know what the support's been like for GT7. I know they'd intended to kind of leave GT Sport and carry on supporting it, but it didn't work out. So I don't know if GT7's now that one they're going to try and support for a long, long time. But yeah, I need to jump into it because if it is something that they're just supporting, then it might be a good game to get involved in at some point.
Yeah, and one of the things that's been trending on Twitter past couple of days is people realizing that GT Sport is going to be shut down, and I guess you can play offline still. The stuff you've earned at that point, cars you've earned at that point, will carry on to your offline mode, but no longer will you be able to play this thing online, and it's bumming people out. And it also gets tied to the whole state of the industry where these games are just pulled and you can't play them anymore. But so hopefully they support GT7 for way longer than they did with Sport.
Yeah.
All right, Cal, moving on to the next one here. We got San Diego Studio from PlayStation, formerly founded in 2001 as an internal PlayStation studio. They're based in San Diego, California. They're known for the MLB The Show series. Sony adjusted their multi-year license with Major League Baseball in 2019, resulting in the game being multi-platform going forward. MLB The Show was a PlayStation platform exclusive going back to 2006. The studio has added development support on titles throughout the years. In addition to the show franchise, they've co-developed games like Drawn to Death, Little Big Planet Karting, and Mod Nation Racers. Do you think there's just working on the show, just going to keep pumping those games out?
I think the rumor's been for a while that they've split, and one of them's working on an Uncharted game.
I remember that.
Yeah, but I don't know whether that rumor's kind of been around for so long now that it's just not true.
Yeah.
But I liked that rumor. It was it was nice, it like made nice sense in a kind of fantasy world. But yeah, who knows if that's true? That'd be cool if it was. But yeah, I know MLB The Show's big. I mean, baseball is basically non-existent over here, so
sure,
don't really ever even see it. I mean, I'm sure it's probably like heavily advertised over your ends, but yeah, we don't. I couldn't even tell you what the front cover looks like, to be honest. But I do know that it's a big Sony property. It's actually on Xbox, isn't it?
Yeah, that's the thing. So in 2019, they restructured that deal with Major League Baseball, so now it's cross-platform going forward for who knows how long.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, baseball is up there with one of the worst sports in the world. So it's
yeah, I wouldn't fight you on that.
But same as cricket. In fact, it probably is better than cricket. So you can have that one.
So in baseball, the big thing in like the 90s was the steroid use and people freaking out. Did cricket or any other UK kind of popular sports have any kind of steroid drama?
I don't really think there has been, not to my knowledge.
I don't think with cricket there's an advantage to swinging that thing as hard as possible.
Yeah, I don't know. Cricket definitely not. Football, I don't know. I mean, it's probably so heavily regulated that rugby again, maybe like little ones, little steroids or something. I don't know. I mean, the guys who play rugby nowadays are like Greek gods. So if I was to guess, then there. But I mean, my cousin played professional rugby, and I've played rugby, and I remember for a long time it was definitely not. You had like your backs, like your fast players. They were always in good shape, but your forwards, they were bigger the better.
Yeah,
big fat lads just marching around and smashing into people. So, but yeah, nowadays they all look a bit suspicious. So that's where
Interesting.
my guess would be in British sport.
Gotcha. Yeah, and really you mentioned football. I think the only thing that would benefit you there as far as performing enhancing would be something that improves your like endurance,
Yeah,
your
I think
cardio.
because football's a weird one where it's so precise, like to kick a ball. I mean, it's so precise that professional footballers who play every day, cock it up all the time. So yeah, I don't know whether there is maybe not yet, but a kind of drug that would make you like basically have to like slow down time, which I'm sure a lot of drugs make you feel like you're doing. But
Yeah.
um, and whether or not I actually, well, the only thing I have heard, I know that a lot of MMA fights. Obviously, I don't know whether they do this in professional bouts, or whatever, but I know that a lot of MMA people, when they train and when they spar, they like microdose mushrooms.
Interesting.
And I've heard that can make you feel like, and whether or not it's actually true or not, but it said it makes them feel like they're like a step ahead, which is quite interesting. But yeah, so maybe people will be eating the mushrooms whilst playing football, and they can slow down time, bend time.
Yeah, or think they're doing
Or,
that.
yeah, yeah.
They're just
Yeah.
staring into
Either
the
way, it'd be
bleachers.
great entertainment. It'd be great to watch.
Oh yeah, I say drug them all up.
Yeah.
All right, Cal, moving on. We got Sony Santa Monica Studio. They're currently based in Playa Vista, California, formed in 1999 as an internal PlayStation studio. Their last release was God of War Ragnarok in 2022 on PS4 and PS5, and the DLC that just came out, Valhalla, in December 2023. So God of War 2018 director Cory Barlog stepped away from directing its sequel to work on a new project at Sony Santa Monica. There is also a rumored original God of War 2005 remake in the works. I don't know if it's tied directly to Santa
Mm.
Monica, but it's just a rumor that exists somewhere, is being worked on. But we just got Valhalla from Sony Santa Monica. Do you think it's going to be a while? Do you think we get maybe a tease from that Cory Barlog title?
Yeah, I
Or do you
don't
think it's a.
know. Similar to Guerilla, it's just a studio that's kind of fell off my radar just because I didn't play Ragnarok. I don't even own it yet. And I don't know why, because I loved God of War 2018. I love the God of War series. So it's just one of those games I need to get to, and I'm sure I'll adore it. And I'm glad that, similar to Horizon, I'm glad the DLC has come out before I've even played it, because it might uh, add on a little bit better, and it's free. So yeah, really need to get into that. Before I really, because it's for me like I kind of, if I'm not playing a game from a studio, I generally don't even think about them unless they make some announcement. So when they announced the Valhalla DLC, that was the first time I really, Sony Santa Monica were really sort of on my radar again. But yeah, I mean, God of War 2018 is amazing. I'm sure Ragnarok's amazing. So whatever they do next will be great, and I'd love to see some kind of look back to the old God of Wars, because they're in their own right, arguably. I mean, God of War 3 is probably my favorite one. So I'd like to see the first two kind of get kind of brought up to speed a little.
Yeah, I would love to see, and maybe not even Santa Monica, like give it a Blue Point, like some kind,
Yeah.
that same level that Blue Point does, where they bring back a game and just update every aspect of it, but they keep the heart of it there, and they're not really making a lot of wild changes. Do something like that with the God of War series.
You'd expect something like that, like is essentially like a beat 'em up, isn't it? Or a slasher, I suppose.
Right.
Um, like surely there's just lots of studios that would be chomping at the bit to make something like that. Because again, it doesn't have to be massive. It just like a Blue Point kind of style thing. But and that's putting it lightly, because they always go to like the nth degree of quality.
Yeah.
But yeah, God of War is just a fun slashing kind of game, and I think they'll probably have to do some quality of life improvements, especially with where certain puzzles and finding certain things. It was always a bit of a pain in the ass, to like missing stuff, and I always felt I was always like trying to explore every nook and cranny, and it gets a bit annoying. Um, but yeah, I'd love to see the first two especially get some love, because they're very likely showing their age now.
Yeah, for sure. That's going back to the PS2 era. So
Well, they're stranded on PS3 anyway, because you can only play God of War 1 and 2 via the PS3 like HD collection version. So you can only stream them unless you want to plug in a PS3, which I think anyone does.
right.
So yeah, difficult to play as well. So it makes
Hmm.
sense for sure. But do you know what else is stranded on the PS3?
What?
Resistance. So let's get that as well.
True. True. You know what? I think when we went back and did our book club, I think I played it I mixed streaming the game through PS
Mm,
Now or whatever the equivalent was back then, and then I did buy the disc at some
mm,
point because I have my PS3 as well. But yeah, these games are locked to where it's like it's not easy to just kind of go, I want to play this today. You got to do
yeah,
some research.
yeah.
Awesome, Callum. All right, we're winding down here. We got Team Asobi. Team Asobi was formed in 2012 as internal part of the Sony Japan studio based in Tokyo. They're known for the Playroom, Playroom VR, Astrobot Rescue Mission, and Astro's Playroom. So their last release was Astro's Playroom in 2020 on PS5 as a launch title. I absolutely love that game. I really want to see what they do next. I imagine it's
Mm.
something in the Astro world, but absolutely give me more platforming and just awesomeness from them. What do you think?
Yeah, it'd be interesting to see what they do. They're obviously super talented at making these kind of like bite-sized experiences, and it could go one of two ways. They could sort of carry on in that trend. I mean, I don't know. It kind of loses its charm because it's kind of all of the stuff they've done is always like an introduction or an introductory thing, which has always been good. Like I remember playing Playroom VR and I loved that. Um, like the rescue mission sort of thing was really really cool. But I don't know whether. But now there's no real. I mean, they could do a VR2 one, I guess, but I'd assume that would already be out just because of how it normally works. But I'd like to see them, yeah, do something. But yeah, there's just no tech related things for them to latch onto. And also, it's been 4 years now, so or well, I suppose closer to 3. But um, yeah, so they're obviously doing something. And yeah, the quality of their games is always top level. So
Yeah, I'm excited. I want to see what they work on and maybe give them like they ditch the kind of we're used to these cute, bite-sized experiences and they give them an open world, freaking World War II game or something like just really go nuts with it. But I would be interested to see what that studio does because they're really,
mm,
really good.
yeah, yeah, it's very interesting. I think all of these are all very interesting in that as soon as they say something, it's going to be
Oh yeah,
worth a look. Positive or negative, I'm sure there might be some stinkers awaiting us, but I'm sure mostly
absolutely.
positive. Yeah.
All right, come our last one here, winding down the first party PlayStation Studio recap. We got Sucker Punch. They're acquired in 2011. They're based in Bellevue, Washington. They're known for Sly Cooper, Infamous, and Ghosts of Tsushima. Their last release was Ghost of Tsushima on PS4 in 2020. There was Ghost of Tsushima Legends, a co-op game in 2021 I completely forgot about. A movie adaptation of Ghost of Tsushima is also in development. Chad Stileski, who's known for John Wick, is leading the project. So that's a movie being based in that world. Great. Do you think it's I imagine all hands on for the sequel to Tsushima at Sucker Punch?
Yeah, I need to play the DLC for that as well. I'd like to go back to it, to be honest, but I mean, you're going to laugh at me, but I'd have to see if there's a separate trophy list before I did.
God.
Um, but yeah, because I want to play the DLC because I know that there was DLC release for it too. But
Oh yeah,
yeah,
the
I
separate
loved
island.
Ghost of
Yeah.
Tsushima. Yeah, yeah. I loved Ghost of Tsushima. It was a lockdown game, wasn't it?
I
Came
want to
out
say
during
so.
lockdown. Yeah, because I remember very specifically being like just playing it like non-stop, like 24/7 until I beat it. As well as some other games during that period. But yeah, I loved it. It was really good. I don't know. It is one of those games where maybe I don't know if I'd have the energy to 100% it again, though. That's the only thing. So maybe I'll go through it again and just sort of critical path it because there's definitely a lot you don't have to do as well.
Yeah, yeah. That one is I think we talked about it years ago when it came out where it didn't latch on to me as much as I wanted to at
Mm.
the beginning. I put it on hold for a couple months and then I jumped back in. I want to say it was when they did the PS5 60 frame per
Oh, nice.
second
Yeah,
mode
yeah.
and it just felt like a next gen game to me and I just gave it another shot and it just
Mm.
absolutely infiltrated my brain. But I was
And
also
what was interesting was it came to PS4 and it almost had before its time a lot of the next gen kind of stuff like the loading screens were basically non-existent.
true.
It ran at a really good frame rate. This is on base PS4, and it was like a really small file size as well. So I remember even with the PS5 around the corner at that time, everyone was just like, "This is already like no loading screens, really fluid gameplay." So yeah, I'd really like to try on PS5 to just see it at even better sort of levels.
And I think so. I imagine it's all hands on deck for the next Tsushima
Mm,
entry. But I'm also very excited the fact that we're now so far away from these PS4, PS5 releases that I imagine the next one is going to be only PS5. and I can't wait to see what that looks like running just tailor-made for PS5. It already looks so beautiful on PS4. I can't
Mhm.
imagine, and I'm just so stoked to see what that would look like. I have no idea story-wise if we stay in that same island. Tsushima is the island, right? So I imagine that still has to
Yes.
be there unless it's
Yeah.
Ghost of something else.
Yeah. Yeah, it'll be interesting to know how it's named or what it's going to be. But we've also got that Rise of the Ronin, which I don't know necessarily similar. I think it's a bit more of a is it it's not is it Team Ninja? Rise of the Ronin? Who's making Rise of the Ronin?
Ooh, I know that's an upcoming game. People are talking about it, and I don't know
Yeah.
who's making that.
Is it similar? Well, I say it's similar to Ghost of Tsushima in that it's, got a Japanese warrior in it. Yeah, Team Ninja, and I love Team Ninja. So I'm really excited for that as well. That's just reminded me about this. But yeah, so hopefully that will kind of get me when Rise of the Ronin comes out. So I'm definitely going to play that. Hopefully that will kind of get me back in the mood for this kind of thing. But yeah, Rise of the Ronin looks great. And Team Ninja are so good. I loved Stranger of Paradise,
Mm,
the Final Fantasy Origin game. I played that recently. It's on just come to PlayStation Plus, and they did that, and it was amazing. And I know they did an IO, which I haven't played,
yeah.
but I think I might play those. And did they do Wolong? Was that them? Or was that someone else? But Wolong was great
Wolong,
as well.
I think that's someone else, but for these games, they have that Souls like
Mm,
aspect to them, and I know they're not for me, so I always tune out whenever they
yeah.
whenever
Well,
they announce
that's the
it.
thing. Like, I'm not, as you know, I don't really like Dark Souls. I find them a bit just ridiculous and and like in just the darkest way. Like they're just not enjoyable for me.
Mm,
But Team Ninja stuff, I think, is just so much more. It's much more gamey. Like
okay.
for me, it's a lot. It doesn't really concentrate on necessarily like immersing and building like this crazy world around you. It does still do that, but it's a lot more focused on just gamey stuff like loot and improving your character and trying different like armors and more that kind of loot based stuff. From what I've played in some of their games, but yeah, Rise of Rain looks really cool. I'm interested to see what it's like.
Yeah, that's cool. That might scratch the itch of Tsushima for a while,
Mm,
but
yeah.
now Tsushima was 2020. We're going into 2024. I would love to see this year a tease for the next one,
Mm,
some kind of CG thing. I don't think we'll see gameplay this year. I imagine like a 2025 kind of thing, but I would love to see them start hyping it up and confirming that's what they're working on. Um, but that ends our first party recap. I did pull up the last state of play because I imagine that's really what we're waiting for to see. It's some confirmation from
mm.
Sony on what's going on down the line. The last state of play was September of 2023, but that did focus on more third party stuff. I'm hoping we get Q1, we get in the next couple months a focus on what's coming out for from first party PlayStation in 2024, maybe going into 2025 as well.
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff coming out as well. We kind of got out this year with all these releases, and it's just straight away. I mean, February is packed with stuff that I'm interested in.
You got
Are you
Helldivers.
are you gonna play the Suicide Squad game?
I don't think so. I did
No.
try. So there's of course online people have been tearing apart because different outlets got to do impressions and they were
Mm,
mixed but mostly negative. I did play the closed beta, which they actually dropped the embargo on it. I think to coincide with the kind of negative response from outlets. So that
mm,
closed beta embargo lifted. I played a good 2 hours of it. I did not like it. I'm not a fan
no.
of these games as a service usually, but with the multiplayer stuff and just like the HUD was, and it's been burned online, but like the HUD is so confusing and just like littered with stuff. The actual core gameplay, like the movement felt fun. It was fast, but it just also felt like such a
Mm,
weird, it's like a Fortnite version of what this is. And if you think back to like the Arkham series that they have been very famous for recently, like how they nailed that feeling going into this just seems really radical. And I don't know how that game's going to be received when it comes out.
yeah, it's definitely one I keep my eye on. I don't think I'll play it just mainly because I don't really have an interest in the kind of IP. Um, but yeah, it'll be interesting to see how it goes. I don't think it's going to be as bad as maybe it seems. I just don't think it can be. Either way, a lot of people are going to play it just because it's Suicide Squad, and I'm sure it will do really well. But um, Yeah, I've just looked at a list of the games coming out in February, and it's ridiculous. There is one thing I did want to actually say. I don't know if you ever played the Star Wars Phantom Menace game on PS1.
No.
Okay, it's a great game. It's super hard, but it's so good. And it's coming to PlayStation Plus Premium. I think like coming up. So I was thinking of maybe grabbing it because it'll
Now,
be
is this
very
separate from
funny.
like the pod racing thing?
Yeah, it's just a movie tie-in game. And I remember when I was younger, I used to make my dad play it because I wasn't good enough to beat it on the PC, but I think the PS1 version is the same. But yeah,
I'm pulling up footage now. So this is releasing. Is it this month or February?
yeah, I think it's like the next drop. So that's the first time I'll probably make use of PlayStation Plus Premium, is to play that. But yeah, if you want I'm sure extremely frustrating old Star Wars game, and
Okay.
this is the one for you.
I didn't realize I wanted that in life, but I will maybe give
Yeah,
that a
but
try.
it's just I just noticed it and I thought it's such a random choice. I know Star Wars is massive, but the Phantom Menace PS1 game is so random. I mean, we're also getting the Dark Forces remastered, so there's some good old school Star Wars games coming as well, which is quite cool. Because I think that's where Star Wars was best, was in some of these early obscure video games. So I'm looking forward to playing those again.
Yeah, it's a weird out of left field one, but I wonder if it also comes down to just like, hey, the rights, came
Yeah,
up
yeah,
and it's super easy
yeah,
to like get this one, and we
yeah.
need something to fill into this
And
next drop. And so,
I'm sure the Phantom Menace especially will have a huge like nostalgia attachment to it. Yeah, I know a lot of people sort of around my age who also have that same kind of attachment to it. So I think I was just in the zeitgeist at the right time
yep.
for it. Um, but yeah, so I might give that a download. I'll probably like get an hour through it and then be like, this is so horrible to play.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Nice, Callum. Awesome. Well, we'll end it there for the week. The L2R2 PlayStation Podcast. Callum, where can they find you on the Twitters online?
Oh God, I can't even remember what oh, it's Bear Munro.
Bear
If you want
Monroe.
to, yeah. And I don't really go on. I don't say much on there anymore, but I
Yeah.
just go on and read funny football things mostly. Oh, don't you see my little dog in the background trying to? She's slightly blurred, but she's
Yeah, I see
trying
a
to get
blurry.
involved.
Nice, Callum. Or you can keep up with the show as well on Twitter at PlasticCardPod and on YouTube, TikToks, Instagram, the whole shebang. We'll end it there for this week. Callum, if you'll tell the good people out there, good night.
Good night.